Welcome to Conversations, Lehman College's series of discussions with major theater artists of our time. For the first of a two-part chat, our guests today are some of the original creators of what has come to be seen as an important movement in American theater, off Broadway. Actors Helen Haft and John Gilman, and playwrights Robert Heide and Doric Wilson. Welcome to Conversations.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
This is so formal because you guys are my oldest friends in the world, and I'm so delighted that you're here today on such short notice, substituting for Ellen Stewart, who couldn't make it today.
Yes.
And recently we have been the subject of so much scholarly inquiry that there are how many books now? I'm just going to mention a few of us. We've been reduced. We've been reduced to scholarship, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Who would
The
have
Ghastly
dreamed?
Ones by Johnny McDonough, Maggie Dominick's Queen of the Peace Room, Robert Patrick's novel Temple Slave, David Crespi's The Off-Broadway Explosion.
Yeah.
What have I missed?
You missed Playing Underground by Stephen Bottoms. Which
Right.
Is the big one. That's a huge book.
That's coming out or has been?
No, it's been out for a year.
Oh, that's right. I got galleys from that
There's
thing.
a book
yeah.
coming out by Wendell Stone, and it's
On the
coming out
Cafe
this
Chino.
spring on Joe Chino and the Cafe Chino.
And what is the title of that book?
Cafe Chino.
Cafe Chino.
It's all about the cafe.
And
And
also
it's
there's-
incredible because he did such research. He has histories
Yeah.
of people that just walk by.
Well, for
the
those
Chino,
of us,
let
for
alone
those
there.
of our audience out there who don't know who what the Cafe Chino was, who we are, I wanted to you to introduce yourselves. Let's start with you, Helen.
Oh, I hate to introduce myself first. My name is Helen Haft, and I'm an actor. We say actor now, we don't say actress, actor. And I went to the High School of Performing Arts.
Now LaGuardia.
Right. And I went to CCNY for 2 years and hated every minute of it. Then I did some community theater. And one day I met a man named, well, not met him, he was a friend of mine, Bill Duff Griffin. And he took me to dinner. And he said to me, you know, I want to take you to this bar, Julius's, because I want you to meet this playwright friend of mine, Tom Ian. And so I said, oh, okay. So we had this very nice dinner, and we went to Julius's. There was a lot of, I looked and there were all just men in there. And I thought, oh my goodness, water. I dropped a drink. But anyway, Edward Albee was standing in the corner.
Yeah.
And he was very handsome, and I just kept staring at him, and he gave me a dirty look, like, who is this woman? What does she want? Who does she hope to be? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, I met Tom Ian, who was slumped across the bar like this. He was sort of slumped. He said, darling, he said to me, I have a play. I have several roles open that you could probably play, called Frustrata, of a dirty little girl with the paper rose at her head is demented. I always thought Tom Ian was British. I never realized he was
from the Bronx.
Syrian. No, he was Syrian and Lebanese descent from Cambridge, Ohio, where they made tires, or RCA was there, somebody was there. And his mother owned a diner. So anyway, I went for rehearsal. We had a first rehearsal, and I walk up these 12 flights of stairs, and my back was good then, so I was able to really walk up those stairs. It didn't bother me. His tenement on West 11th Street, and we started rehearsing, and my first line, I said, her, ha, something, she's crazy. I went like this, and he kept looking at me like, oh, she's very talented, you know, that kind of look. I can work with her. And I did that play. We did that play at La Mama. And I had never heard of the Cafe La Mama. Tom Ian.
Oh, okay.
And I had never heard of the Cafe La Mama. It was over this deli. Wasn't it over a deli door on Second?
Yeah, the second address was upstairs.
Well, I was
the first
at the
address
second.
was a basement,
Yes,
and then was over
I was
deli.
at the second address.
Right.
And I remember we did this play, Frustrata, over a dirty little girl. I thought this was one of the most exciting events that ever happened to me, because I had thought that I would be a very serious actress doing, you know, Chekhov and O'Neill and all the, you know, I would be playing the mother in Romeo and Juliet or something, or the nurse, Shakespeare, which
You're a well-known Shakespearean actress before.
Which I listen, I did Shakespeare twice. I went up on my lines as one of the most horrible. It was like going through the Holocaust, I'm telling you. It was like going into suicide. I mean, please, improvise Shakespeare. Somebody told me Laurence Olivier knew how to do it. Well,
Yes, he did.
they said he knew how to get out of it.
Helen, we're going to come back to this.
But anyway, I don't want to talk about. All right, now, okay, I don't want to talk about William Shakespeare.
Oh, God forbid.
No, but
God
anyway,
forbid.
I went on to do work with Tom Ian. We had this very strange symbiotic relationship, and I did a play called Why Hannah's Skirts Won't Stay Down, which was about a woman.
Brilliant.
Which was about a woman who stood over the breeze hole in Coney Island. Like the picture of, there was a very famous picture of Marilyn Monroe, remember in 7 Year Itch, where she's standing over the grating.
Subway grating, yeah.
The subway grating. Well, Tom Ian had gone to Coney Island. It was a very, very warm day in July, and he had this tenement apartment, so it was very warm. And he said he went to that time they had the amusement house, and they had the breeze hole, the fun house. And he was standing, and he said, I saw this woman standing over the breeze hole, and I saw you screaming, your face screaming.
That was the point.
And wasn't she
And
having
he
an
wrote-
orgasm? Wasn't that
Well,
Kind of semi-simulated
orgasm. Well, it was a lot of. She had a lot of problems. This woman, because she used sex as a weapon. That was the only way she could relate. So anyway, what happened was, I met him. He called me a few days later after he'd come back from Coney Island, and he said to me, "Meet me at Rikers on 7th Avenue South." I said, "Okay." It was a Saturday, and I remember I met him. Because Saturday I wasn't working. I had to work 9 to 5 jobs. I wasn't even in the union then. So I went down and I met him, and I had to buy him a cup of coffee because Tom Ian never had any money. So he takes this dirty crumpled paper out of his pocket and opens it up and says, "Read this." And it was the opening lines, the opening monologue of Hannah's Skirts. That is where Hannah was born.
At Rikers.
And at Rikers on 7th Avenue South in this greasy spoon. And I said, I come here every payday and stand over the breeze hole. It's relaxing. Everyone should have a place.
And you became the queen of off-Broadway.
La reine de la off-Broadway. Yes.
In realities?
Realities magazine. Yes.
Bob, how did you come to Off-Broadway?
Oh, good question. I had actually been involved with the Living Theater, and I had been involved with an off-Broadway theater called New Playwrights, and I had been involved with Edward Albee, whom Helen met. I met him at Lenny's Hideaway.
Oh, and I met him at Julius.
And but I had a play at this theater called New Playwrights, which I was involved with a woman named Lee Payton. Lee had started the Fantastic. She owned the Sullivan Street Theater. I wrote a play called West of the Moon, and a play called Hector, and the reviewers came and they told me in their review, one of them, to break my typewriter over my hands and never write again. And I was taking it literally until Joe Chino had come to see West of the Moon, which was about a male hustler and a religious fanatic in a doorway in the rain. And Joe liked the play. He said, "You've got to write something for the Chino." Now, I had never heard of the Chino at that point. Joe was pointed out to me once on the street with Johnny Dodd, and he always wore black, and they were running down the street, and I was warned against running against these people, that they said they were like a pack of wild wolves. So, but I did write a play called The Bed, which was two men stuck in a bed, taking too many drugs, too much liquor, and eventually one of them does get out of the bed. And,
Andy Warhol later shot that, I believe.
Andy Warhol made a film of it, and then I wrote some other things for Andy, Loopy for Edie Sedgwick. I wrote a play called Moon for Joe Chino, and that was published by Michael Smith, and it was done in many, many universities all over the place.
What I think I'm getting already is a picture of the kind of theater that was off-Broadway that we got involved with, which was coffee house theater for
Yes.
the most
Right,
part,
yeah.
taking place in Greenwich Village for the most part, not
Yes.
entirely, but Greenwich Village in coffee houses, and this was a phenomenon of the 60s and the 70s,
Right.
and a very exciting moment in American theater, because out of it came such people as ourselves, and people like Sam Shepard,
Shepard, yeah.
Tom Iron, Harvey Firestein, Lanford Wilson. It was a very Bernadette Peters,
John
Peters,
Guare.
John Guare,
Al Pacino worked at the Chino.
Harvey Keitel, Bette Midler. This was
Bernadette
Jimmy
Peters,
Rado, who brought hair,
James
James Sarden hair.
So, well, Tom O'Horgan cut his teeth at off-Broadway. This was a momentous occasion in American theater. Doric, how did you were, as far as I know, you are the first off-Broadway playwright.
I was 3 at the time. I had Paxton Whitehead was my roommate, the English actor, character actor now. And we belonged to a theater group called New Voices, I think. And I worked at Time and Life magazine, and while I was supposed to be working, I had written a one-act on Adam and Eve called And He Made Her Her. And we staged it for our group, and there was an actress in our group who said, "Oh, I've just come from doing a play at the Cafe Chino. You got to come down, bring your script, maybe Joe will let you do it there." And so in a blizzard, actually, we went down to the Chino, walked in with my little script in hand, and Joe, I started to hand it to him. He took it and put it aside, gave me a cup of cappuccino, the first I ever had, asked me what my sign was. I didn't know what my sign was. He asked me what my birthday was. I told him, and he said, "No, December 11." And I said, "No, that's not my birthday." He said, "No, that's when your play is opening." He never read the script. And in fact, that caused me a superstition, and I've had hundreds of productions of my plays all over the world. I have never submitted a script ever in my life because Joe wouldn't accept it. I've never submitted to anybody else. And so I've multiple productions, but I never submit scripts. Anyway, I went back, told Paxton about it. He said, "Where is this place?" I hadn't the vaguest idea, and I had to spend the next 2 weeks searching the village to find the Cafe Chino.
Cornelia Street.
Yeah, but I didn't know what we lived in town. That's it.
John, how did you come to the Chino, I believe?
Well, I came from California, where I had done plays by Shaw, Strindberg, and Shakespeare. And it was all very amateurish in my mind. And when I came to New York, I knew I was with the big cheeses, the New Yorker people. And fortunately, I accidentally walked into the Cafe Chino. And I met Joe and a bunch of people like Johnny, and they were passing out pills.
Johnny
We're all
Dodd.
drinking beer and stuff. And
A bunch of disreputable louts.
And it wasn't aspirin.
no, they were like, you could take pills to put you to sleep or take pills to wake you up in those days. And so that was very attractive to me. And so I started hanging out, and I met you, and actually you needed somebody for a play you were doing there.
Right.
And I jumped in, and I got the part of the space captain of the spaceship. And but then I realized that it was going to be off stage, the voice. So I was my first role was at the Cafe
I
Chino.
didn't realize
offstage.
it was in my play. Yeah,
In your
Saturday
play.
night at the movies.
Saturday night at the movies.
Yes.
And Linda Eskenes
was starring
connected
in
to
it.
that.
Now, this was a wild time, and the consequences of the Chino, to skip ahead a little bit, it ended up in disaster. Joe Chino died of perhaps of some of the excesses of the Chino, and ended up dead. He ended up committing suicide. But for a while, it seemed like we were at the height of a very high wave. What did it feel like?
We were the counterculture. I think that
Before
was
it was called
part of
counterculture,
the.
before it was called.
Yeah.
It was the 60s. And one thing
Yes,
that's very
yes.
important is that our rents were under $100. So we
Way
had
under.
the freedom that I think it exists today, probably in another way. I guess maybe a lot of
No, not
rich kids
really.
are doing theater. I don't know.
No, it's
Not really,
economically it
because-
was a lot easier.
It was easier. I still had to have a 9-to-5 job.
It was still difficult to get the rent, no matter what it was.
Thank you. I mean, I was paying $97.69 a month. on
Which
the
was a lot of
rental
money, though.
Yeah.
Mine was $58.
Which was quite a
My
lot
son
of
and I
money.
just turned down an apartment that we took an apartment that was 80 versus 85 because we couldn't give up with
That's
the extra
exactly.
$5 a month.
Exactly. The
Please.
$5 did it. And I always had to have a I was the head switchboard operator at the United Jewish Appeal because my father who was a PR man there, insisted that I work there. He says, Helen, I want to see you go down the road to theater, but Helen, we're not going to pay you rent. You're 28 years old, Helen.
At Joe Chino's.
No, my father gave
yeah,
me the
you-
same advice. He told me that being on the boards was the best experience, so he wouldn't give me the money for
So
acting
that's what
school.
that's right. That's a doing. Acting
Yeah.
is doing.
Right.
Exactly.
Also, I think one important thing that people forget about the Chino in the beginning of Off Broadway, because the spaces were so small and there were no technical devices. I mean, there wasn't room for sets and
Yes.
costumes. Even if you had sets and costumes, you couldn't
Yes.
store them. It really focused on the writing and the actor.
I-
and it
Was the
brought theater right back to where it first started.
That's what I
Every
how-
man plays.
Yes.
For those who weren't there, how large was the playing area of the stage?
Not as large as this stage.
Not as large.
Oh,
We're
well,
talking
probably
about.
About this
No,
size.
when I started, it wasn't. This is the big stage. This is when you guys came.
So we did musicals there.
Yeah, they did Dames at Sea. We
Dames
did
at
them
Sea.
entire
Originally.
musicals.
Sorry,
That's
Bernadette.
right.
Bernadette
Peters.
Peters.
People would use the whole space, though. You'd hear somebody
Yeah,
in
but
the
my
back,
second
and then
play,
they'd run on.
I had people coming in from outside. I
Right.
used the tables, took the tables from the audience,
Right.
and built my set. I made
Now-
them hold their coffee, and I lifted the tables up and built my.
Right. And the actors would even mingle with the audience in many ways.
It was, for me, an experience of running away with the circus. Here I was. I was working in book publishing at Hill and Wang. I was drama editor of Hill and Wang. God knows why. I have no idea why I was doing that. And suddenly, all my friends were getting rounds of applause at the Cafe Chino. And I got jealous, and I said,
Why should they be getting all the applause?
I'm going to do
Jealousy
something, and I
drove
wrote
him.
a play. And
Jealousy.
I wrote a short story that Lanford Wilson told me was a play. So I
Right.
typed it up differently, and we did it. And that's how that was my break into show business.
Yes.
What was the
And
title of that? Just
It
that-
was Good Night, I Love You,
Yeah.
which described a guy getting pregnant from his boyfriend, and the reaction of the audience was
Well.
in 1964 was of sheer disgust.
Well,
People were utterly
even
Even at
repulsed.
the Chino,
Well,
right?
even now it would be of sheer disgust,
Now, the
And-
Chino was the
The
first
modern
off-Broadway theater.
Then
should
we
talk about
we
Then
did
La Mama,
worked at
yeah.
La Mama as well.
Yeah.
Judson.
At Judson Church.
Yeah.
Theater Genesis.
Theater
Theater
Genesis. Where else?
Tony's
Well, by the
Bastiano's
mid-60s,
Cellar.
there
Yo,
were 30 or
Reliable.
40
Reliable.
With you,
spaces.
Billy.
Yeah.
I did your play.
Bastiano's Studio Cellar.
Now this gradually, how did we get to be well known? We did. I believe it was Michael Smith in the Village Voice. That was
You
our
wrote a
first
column
promoter.
Is that, and then there was a super article by Eleanor Lester in the New York Times,
Times,
and
yes.
that was the big
About off
moment.
Broadway.
Yeah.
And then
My
Helen,
fame came from a
Realities
different
magazine.
place.
did
Realities
something.
magazine, the French magazine. but
They discovered the underground at a
That's
certain
I got
point.
probably the first Village Voice review, which said you shouldn't do plays in coffee houses. and then I never
Where
got
was
reviewed.
that? And was that at the Chino?
That was the Chino, and he made her. And then I never got
That's
reviewed
right.
by The Voice again until years later.
So we were inspired. It was an uphill fight for most of us.
Oh,
Right.
it was. It
Well, I
was.
never thought of it that way. I always made my own theater, and I could always find an audience. So,
Right. I felt it was uphill.
I thought so.
but I
too.
guess I never really. I've always been more interested in alternative theater. I like Broadway, but I can't imagine anything I want to say to that audience. I really can't. I look at them and I think, I wouldn't let you have a key to my apartment, let alone talk to
I've
me.
always wondered whether I was at the Chino. It wasn't for me, and I don't know about you guys. I never felt it was anti-Broadway. It was
No,
just
I'm not, and I'm not particularly
anti-Broadway.
anti-Broadway. I just
it
don't
was.
for me.
It wasn't where we were working. It wasn't avant-garde. It was deeply experimental, though.
Yeah.
Yes, without
Yeah.
being self-consciously
It was quite
Yeah.
reaching out to the audience,
Yeah.
but it wasn't
Well,
Dada.
When you say
wasn't-
experimental,
Well,
I feel like also the word exploratory. We were
Exploratory.
looking at ourselves
Yes.
Yes.
under bright lights.
And
That's what I mean.
confrontational.
And well, you know, Daniel Hayman Clark had it put it very well at the Chino, with one of the Coffee Chronicles that we did
Yeah.
at the Chino, at
The
the La
Mama,
Mama.
yeah.
You have to become an actor and a nightclub performer at the same
Yes.
time.
Right.
Because everything
It
is
was
very
another
present.
dimension.
You are an actor and a
wasn't-
nightclub
It
entertainer
wasn't just
at
the
the same
method.
time.
We'd all gone to Stella
That's right.
Adler,
Yes.
That's
Uta
right.
Hagen, and we.
It's not so much that I don't
Yes.
like. I adore Broadway. I like the more I like the intimacy. I like to be 4 feet away from the actress who's doing
Me
Electra.
too. Me too.
I love that experience.
And we
too.
in off Broadway, we were right in front of the audience all the
Yeah.
time,
They
and that's the
surrounded
kind
you.
of theater I grew up on, and which I find
That's what I
most
mean about the
exciting.
difference.
Yeah.
It's not
most exciting.
Broadway's fine. It just I like that intimacy. I've always
That's the
liked that.
thing, Billy, of
Like a
go
comical.
home and write a play. You have
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
months, and it better be good, or if it
yeah.
fails, you
Who
fail.
gave you 2 months?
But that-
Joe gave you a week. Joe would have a day and say,
Well-
I need a play next week.
Right.
Go write it.
Well, we would read comic books too.
But
Billy.
you know,
yeah.
but you
What
know,
did you-
We didn't have a play.
On a
Snow White,
a
the
night
Seven
where
Dwarfs.
something
Classic comics.
They
That's
would
what we
read a classic comic book and get some actors
Yes,
together.
together,
They'd have
and they would
special
read.
lights and
So we're
costumes.
describing a phenomenon that was spontaneous and wild,
Crazy.
crazy.
but also honest, very
Yeah.
honest.
And also, it's very funny. A lot of it was not
Yes.
very good, but some of it was still. Miss
Extraordinarily
Hamp's
good.
performance in Why Hannah's Skirts
I
is
saw it
still on
4
my
times.
top.
Four-
Is still
4
on my
times.
top list of 10 great performances. That Olivia make 11. He doesn't get to the top 10
Oh,
list.
bless you.
Well, Julie Harris was a big fan of.
Yes, I got
Hannah,
a
she
wonderful
came to
letter
see
from
that,
Julie
yeah.
Harris.
Right.
She went to see Hannah Skirts, and I got a beautiful letter from her. Yes. You
There
never
also
wrote me a letter,
there
George.
also were 80% of what was done. I'm glad we never have to see again.
With
And
sheer dread.
If there is a hell,
With sheer dread.
if it is, that's where they've
Remember-
gone, and we will see them
A
again.
musical, What the Lord giveth, let the Lord taketh
Oh, I heard
away.
it, yes, I
That was,
didn't.
that
Oh,
was-
yeah,
So
the-
the two or three
a
shows-
musical
that
scene
was
in
no
it.
James at
Joe
sea.
Chino used to always announce and stay and watch, announce the play from behind the bar,
Yes, he'd
coffee
ring
bar.
the bell. He'd
Ring
ring
the
the
bell.
bell.
Announce the
Magic
play.
time.
He'd say twice. He would go to the front door of the Chino, announce the play, and run out the door and go to Mona's across the street
And have a few
drink.
drinks,
You
yeah.
could not get in to see those plays because the word went around there is a play at the Chino so bad that Joe will not stay in the coffee house, and you
Yeah.
couldn't get in to see it.
When did Joe die?
67.
April 2nd,
68.
1967.
Yes.
And for us at the Chino, that was a disaster.
It was a ritual, and he took a knife and he carved himself up. But there was a lot of, we have to say this, there was a lot of LSD, there was a lot of drugs going around.
And there
the
was-
Andy Warhol crowd had
And there
come
was
down.
a dark side of the Chino. There was a
yes,
dark
I never-
side.
I never
There was a
was
dark
in on
side
that.
to the counterculture. I mean,
Yes,
there
and
was
Johnny
a lot of
Dodd,
creativity.
I had a thing with Johnny Dodd and Tom Iron one night. That was very, very scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Very,
And,
very
I'm
scary.
lucky I was never near any
Think
of that.
of Jimi Hendrix, Janis
It was
Joplin. There were a lot of
preview-
suicides
It was
through
like the
drugs.
preview
It was gone.
of the fall of the hippie culture.
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
Altamont. It was just like a
Yeah.
very dark preview.
That's
And-
right.
But that was going on.
The shooting at Kent
The whole
State.
60s.
And we also had Vietnam. We had all that
The whole
conflict.
60s
Yes.
was a roller coaster.
So we had-
a roller coaster is too tame.
And they were going to the moon. They landed on the moon in 69.
Nine,
JFK,
that's right.
Bobby Kennedy,
JFK,
Martin
assassination,
Luther King.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe died
This
that
felt-
night.
Marilyn Monroe committed suicide.
This
yeah.
felt very much like we were prophetic in a strange sort
Yes,
of
a
way.
weird way we were.
The
That's why
60s
they're writing the books now.
The
because
60s
weirdly
was a
enough,
breakthrough
5
decade.
years, we were ahead
Yes.
by 5 years.
Like the 20s.
That's
Right.
right.
We
kind
were
of like-
writing history before it actually happened.
Happened.
Because our plays, most of our plays of that period mirror the history of the next 5 years. of that
Yes.
Right.
period.
It's true. It's very true.
It's very scary because I've read scripts of mine. I have in He Made a Her. I never thought of people going to the moon, and He Made a Her. Eve has a speech about going to the moon.
Going to the moon.
That's in my play, Moon, too. At the end of
Like
it.
that.
Which you stole from my part.
Oh, of course. Everybody stole from everybody.
Yeah, let's talk
Also,
about that
look,
stealing.
They say if you remembered the 60s, you weren't there.
Bette
So
Midler
we're really
stole
not
from
telling.
me. Bette Midler stole from me. She used to watch me at the Chino when she was 18 years old, and she came from Hawaii, Honolulu.
Right.
And she used to watch me do Hannah Skirts at the Chino. And in an interview with After Dark,
Right.
she said that I got a lot of my character, Sophie, the lounge singer.
Right.
She got from my character in Hannah Skirts. She
right,
used to watch.
She did Tom's Miss Nefertiti Regrets.
Right.
Didn't she?
And she sang a song called Too Many Men, Too Many Men, This Queen Has Had Too Many Men. I remember.
But listen, writers, actually, everyone went to see everyone else's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
It was a
yes.
community. There was
Yeah.
a spirit of
There
community.
was a
which
spirit of
now
community.
that this, I'm not sure where
Well,
this
the
exists,
economics
but-
makes it that impossible. You could do that in those days.
Yeah.
You can't even go off Broadway now. I mean, I run an off-Broadway theater.
What's it? Say the name of your
Oh, it's
theater, please.
Tossos, T-O-S-O-S, Tossos 2.
Tassos.
And his theater prices
other
are
side
too
of silence.
expensive. We can't go there. I know.
$10 a ticket.
It's too expensive. We
But
can't afford it.
I get invited to 10 or 20 things a week at $10, $20, and I have a really hard CD addiction. I have over 7,000 classical CDs.
Oh, I've gotten into that.
So I can't afford it. I can either afford to go to the theater or have my CDs. So I have
Obsessive
CDs.
compulsive CD disorder.
Yes.
But now I think a lot of people are. They tell me they're feeling isolated. That they don't have that sense.
So
of
this was a.
community. You know.
We're gonna wrap up soon, and I just wanted to end on the note that our off Broadway movement was one of community.
Yes.
And I felt like I
Yes.
was part of a fabric.
And it's very interesting. After all these years, the people who, whether we liked each other or didn't like each other, got along or didn't, as the years, there is more community feeling.
That's right. And when we meet, it's like we never left each other.
We still hate one another.
Yeah, we still fight, but we
I still like to hit you over the head with the
That's
wet noodle.
right. That's right. And
Cohorts.
Bette Midler should have given me roles in her nightclub act. She's going to pay for that and not by check.
Anyway,
She won't
I
know
think
where,
the
she won't know
longest
when,
running
she
things
won't
at the
know why.
Chino were Dames at Sea, and I'm giving myself
Yes.
a plug, The Bed.
The Bed.
Well,
The
had
Bed,
a
yeah.
very long run. And Dark
the
says
FBI
it's going to
team
be
is-
producing
Friends,
it.
I'm getting the high sign.
Oh, the high sign. Okay.
The high sign.
All right, we'll be
The high
quiet.
sign to wrap up this first part.
Go home.
It's been a great
outta
pleasure
here.
to meet with Helen Haft, Bob Heide, and John Gilman and Doric Wilson today. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you all again about more aspects of the off-Broadway phenomenon. Thank you and our studio and home audience for joining us today. And we hope to see you again soon for further conversation.